Alright, so I just got back from Harbor Freight and picked up this little welding cart. I'm going to modify this a little bit so I can put my flux core welder down here, and I'll put that new Lincoln up on top. So anyway, this was like $100, and I was looking at buying the wheels separately and making my own cart. And by the time I do that, I'm going to have way over $100 invested. So I figured this is going to be the cheapest option, and I think this is going to be a pretty nice little setup when it's all done. Looks like we got all the makings of a little cart here. A couple shelves, and we got some nice little wheels in there. See, just these wheels I was looking at buying were about $10, $12 a piece. So by the time you start adding up all these parts and pieces, it gets a little expensive. But buying it all together like this is like the only way to really get the cart assembled for cheap. So here I've got this welding cart starting to get set up. This is just my El Cheapo flux welder here, but this is nice whenever you want to save money on welding and not use up a lot of argon or anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the height. I'm going to probably cut this here, weld in some square tubing. I'm going to increase the height of this about 4 inches so that the new welding cart is going to be a little higher. That way I can put the Lincoln right on top. I can have like a 2-tier welding cart. Perfect cuts every time. So here you can see the blue metal there is like 1/8 inch square tubing. I'm just tacking it to the existing structure, and I've got this piece and this piece on the bottom clamped so that it's nice and straight. I've got this side all done. I just welded in, both sides, or all 4 sides of that square tubing, and that's going to clear the top of the MIG welder just fine. So I've got one more to do, and then I didn't change any of the mounting holes here for the handles. All I'm going to have to do is drill a new hole on this upright piece, and that should be all I have to do. Fast forward just a little bit, I got this cart all together. As you can see, these little spacers that I put in came out, I thought, really nice. And all I had to do back here was just drill a hole 4 inches higher. And that's pretty much done. Now I've just got to figure out a way to secure the bottle on the back here. They give you these little, these little lengths of chain, and they just have like a little hook, that the chain sits in. That's a really cheesy way to tie the bottle in because it just kind of bounces around every time you roll it around. It doesn't really fit secure on the tray, so I'm going to modify that a little bit. And this has a bracket up here if you want to go with the full-length bottles. I've just got the short bottles though, so probably the top's only going to come up to here. I like the cart, it rolls really nice. Seems like it's going to be a pretty cool little unit. However, I do not like the way the argon tank sits on the tray. See, there's nothing to keep the bottom from moving around. And then it's just got this line up here, thin metal, that wraps around the tank. So I'm going to try to do something a little different to hold this tank in place. This is a tank carrier that my dad built. See, it's 1/8 inch band iron, and the bottle sits on the bottom and then just uses this rope to secure it in place. I may do something like this, we'll see. I made a template of the radius of the bottle, and this is just a piece of 1/8 inch metal, 2 inch band iron, and in the anvil here we made this little tool that sits in there, and you can just kind of bend, really thin metal really easily. This 1/8 inch metal bends really sweet. So essentially, all that's going to do is hold the bottom of the bottle in, and I'll put some chain links on the end to where I can strap the bottle in. So I ended up just using some of the chain that they gave me that was included in this welding cart. I ended up just welding up a link on this bracket that I'm going to make, and I'll show you guys what those links are going to be for. And then I just used the bolt cutters, to cut that link right there. And I've got myself a really nice hook. Check it out. Just like that. Just got this piece done that's going to bolt to the bottom of the tank cart. or the whole cart, but the tank area, I guess you'd say. Essentially, I just took these little pieces of 1/8" metal, drilled holes in them, and I made brackets so that whenever this bolts down to the bottom, I'll show you. It's just as easy to show you as it is to explain it. Basically, that's going to bolt there to the bottom of this cart, and then I'll have ties here to where I can strap in the bottle. Here's the cart, pretty much all set to go. As you can see, this half moon piece that I welded up and I bolted it on the bottom of the welding cart here, that's going to do two things. One, that's going to make it easier to install the bottle, and also it'll keep the bottle from sliding ahead or around side to side. And also it's going to stiffen up this piece of sheet metal. All this is sheet metal across here. There's no brace underneath. So this is going to do a lot for this welder. And also I've got some more hooks welded up here, well, chain link that I cut. And so if I ever do put a taller bottle on, I can still secure the bottle. So right now I'm just going to be using these and this. So pretty happy with that. Sweet, that fits really nice. Looks like there's plenty of room on this welding cart. And one cool thing about this cart is that this piece comes off with these pins, and you can put that on either side, so I can have this door open and close without having any problems. So that'll go on this side. Sweet, looks good. So there's plenty to hold this MIG welder in place. There's these two brackets right here to keep the thing from sliding backwards. And I'm going to drill 2 1/4" holes through this metal. And that's going to hold it. And they also give you this little cheesy piece of angle iron here, like folded sheet metal, that you know you can move that forward or back and tighten it. That doesn't really do much. But there's only 2 holes on this side, and I don't want to take the cover off the Lincoln. You can take off this cover with all these screws, and you can get to the holes. There's 2 more mounting holes in here, but I don't really want to take all this off. The welder's hole distance is 6 inches. So ultimately, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here and just put down 6 inches. I'm just going to put a dot of urethane, which is what we use for car windshields, right there. And then what's going to hold this MIG welder down to this MIG welding cart is 2 daubs of urethane, 2 1/4" bolts, and these little steps. So ultimately, that's going to be rock solid, and I don't think that's going to go anywhere. If anyone's curious, this is Beta Seal U418. This is what we use for the windshields. This stuff is awesome. This is a really useful material. And it hardens like that, and then you can just take the plug out of the end and you can just start gunning again. Usually we go through 2 tubes of these per windshield. They claim this MIG welder weighs about 60 pounds, I believe. So that's kind of heavy. Perfect. Sweet. So once that urethane dries, this thing is going to be rock solid. I mean, it's already solid just with those 2 bolts in there, so happy with that. The door opens and closes just fine. I'm going to have to hook up my lead here, and I'm going to hook up my fuel line and hook up the work cable, or the ground cable, so getting there. So here it is, all done. That welding cart has proved to be really handy. So what I did here with the tank bottle is I just used this parachute cord to hold the tank in place. This way there's no rattle whenever you wheel this thing around. That's just one of those things that really irritate me whenever these tank bottles, they're always rattling around. You know, this stuff is super strong. I mean, some people might argue that, well, this is on a welding machine. You could get sparks over here and it could melt that. Yeah, that very well could be, but I've never had it happen yet. And I've been welding with this machine over here for probably close to 15 years. And this is just, you know, clothesline. And I did rob the bottle off of that welder so that I can start using this welder. But I'm going to get another bottle for this machine. On my oxygen and acetylene welder, I use that same cord. And that stuff has held up really well. I've had this for about 5 years. And I don't know, I've always liked that. And it holds the bottles really well and it keeps them from being too noisy. So that's something cool you guys could do with one of these welding carts. It didn't take that much, you know, just a little bit of square tubing and patience. And you'll have yourself a really nice cart that you can use for 2 welders instead of just the one it was intended for.